What is up, my little roaches? How are you? Welcome once again to another episode of The Josh Potter Show. You've made it here for another Tuesday, which means you've escaped the Orkin Man another week. Stay woke out there. Keep your eyes peeled. The Orkin Man comes for us all one day, and then we go to the Big Roach Motel in the sky. But I want to thank you for being here, and hopefully I see you out on the road. Coming up, I'm going to be in Milwaukee very shortly. September 5th, Milwaukee Improv. And then a couple of days after that, on the 15th of September, you can find me at Zany's in Nashville. After that, September 30th, Washington, D.C. Going to be at the D.C. Improv. And Thanksgiving weekend, I am coming home to Buffalo, New York, where the Roach was born. Going to the club that I started my comedy career in, Helium Comedy Club, for the entirety of Thanksgiving weekend. So come give thanks, and I'm going to give you some thanks, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying. I can't get into it. It's nice boy clock time. But you can go get tickets for all those shows up at my Twitter, which is at J_Potter, right in the bio, or on my Instagram in the bio as well, at Josh_Potter. You can get it there. And also twitch.tv/Josh_Potter, still having fun on there. And got a little update as to what we're going to be doing as far as Madden goes. We'll talk about that when the sports come up. But pleased to be buying tickets to all the live shows, checking out the Twitch, and keep subscribing to this here YouTube channel, liking it. Got a lot of new subscribers last go around, which was very nice. Keep them coming. Hit that little bell so you get the notifications. And if you're an audio person, subscribe, rate, review, all those things on there as well. Thank you to Griffin Parker for this jam right here, Krusty Crocs. Very much appreciate that. And I just want to say thank you one more time to Eni and Nadav, not only for coming on the show last week, but for, basically without them, probably wouldn't have had an episode last week. So not only did we get to have an episode, but it ended up being a wildly fun one. And the long and the short of it, folks, and I'm not sure how much Sickler has discussed on his podcast or not, but we had to let a Sean go here at the old Night Pants studio, and it was a bit sudden, so we had, that's what we were discussing all last week for those who were very curious, all the gossip queens out there who were very wondering, what are they alluding to? That's what we couldn't help but allude to. And so thank you to them one more time, and thank you to Ryan Sickler for doing some other things and putting out some other fires that go along with, this whole thing, folks. You know, I wish I could just come in here and turn on a microphone and talk, and then that be that, but it's not. There's a lot that goes into it, and I've said it since the beginning of May when we made this whole jump over here, that, if you can make it through the summer with me, this is only going to grow, and that is true. So I'm so thankful if you have made it this far. And another thing I'm thankful for, and another person I'm thankful for, is Kirsten, who now you can hear in the control room. How are you, Kirsten? Thank you, by the way, for taking the helm for the first time of the old SS Roach.
Hey, yeah, no, it's I'm really excited to work with you guys. So
a Roach since day one. She's been listening to the show. And I'm excited that you're working with us, too, and you've been thrown into the fire, as it were. And so I appreciate all your hard work, and I'm happy to have you. And I know all the Roaches out there will be very welcoming indeed. And I don't know, I'm curious. So you listened back at the YMH days. Are you a sports fan? Give us a background of what your sports knowledge is, or just like give a shit level.
Yeah, I'm not someone who can name you the top 10 NBA players or anything like that, but I did sports year round in high school, and then in college I was a live broadcaster for a baseball team in Waterloo. Go Waterloo Bucks. And then I also spent a year working for ESPN, doing camera work and then some instant replay stuff. So
look at that, folks. A real broadcasting pro here. On the ones and twos now. Isn't that exciting? I'm excited, and maybe you can help correct me then when I make a mistake like last week where I said Jack Morris was Jack Moss multiple times. I kept saying it over and over again. I have this problem, folks, and it goes with speaking for long periods of time and not really being checked. Do you know what I mean? Like, Annie and Nadav didn't know who the hell I was talking about, the Detroit Tigers announcer. Not many would. And so they weren't going to correct me. And I'll tell you exactly why I said Jack Moss and why phonetically my brain got in a pretzel. I do drugs. Yeah, I'm not like all together like snapping with it. I don't have a rubber band brain. I'm not over here like some freaking, genius of some sort. No, I have a melted brain. And I was trying not to say Zach Morris, really, because Jack Morris and Zach Morris, very similar. And, of course, Zach Morris, Saved by the Bell, imprinted on my brain. And also, I confused Zach Moss, who is a running back for the Buffalo Bills. So I had this portmanteau of names all climbing together, and Jack Moss came out. Of course I know it was Jack Morris, so I apologize. And I would do the baseball sound. I would have done a real baseball apology, but I can't. That one might have gotten lost in the wind, and so now I have to recreate that whole thing. And I'm mixing my own audio again, folks, back on that. So if you have any complaints about the audio, you aim them right to this guy. And I know that's going to open up a wormhole of YouTube comments, but hey, they say all engagement is good engagement. So that's basically sort of a status of what's been going on here, but also... I want you to remember that we are still looking to, despite having a small organization, we have opportunity for aggressive expansion, as the Joker says in The Dark Knight. So keep your resumes coming to joshpottershow@gmail.com. That's where you can also send anything, by the way, whether it be music, remixes, queefs, if you want to keep those coming. We have not had, we had a whole wave of queefs to the point where I think everyone who wanted to queef on this show might have done it, but some got lost in the wind and people might be still sending them to the old email from back a few months ago. It is surprising how many people forget that, and I should remind people more. joshpottershow@gmail.com is where you can send all those things. And like I said, we are looking for expansion down the road here as things grow, and so pleased to be continuing to send those resumes off to, once again, joshpottershow@gmail.com.
Now watch this drive.
But that's that. I don't want to speak on those types of things any longer, but I do want to get into some sports stuff because, boy, oh boy, football season is approaching, and I'm starting to get better about being excited about it. I wasn't excited for a moment. Terry Pagula and COVID both ripped the excitement from my heart for a little while there. Usually I'm all about preseason. And I love, especially this preseason, there's so many rookie quarterbacks. I have to learn the new numbers. Everyone's got new numbers now because of the single digits, which I think that's the only time I've ever felt like an old man. I'm just like, preposterous. Look at that receiver wearing number 2. What is this, high school? God. But, so that, Terry Pagula, you tried to take my soul away from me and my enjoyment for football, but I'm getting it back. And COVID is another thing that tried to take it from me. And again, because all the camp stories, how many are vaccinated, how many are not vaccinated? And I got to deal with Cole Beasley on the Bills, who's so staunch about being anti-vax, and he's even made a rap song where the cover art for the song is just 2 like giant silver balls. Like he's like, I've got such big balls for being such an anti-vax man. Meanwhile, Deion Dawkins, his teammate, in the hospital with COVID, almost died, this guy, while this guy's rapping about how big his balls are for not getting vaccinated. Just a wild sort of thing going on at camp. I don't want to hear any of that. I want to hear about who's on the bubble, what linebacker's going to get cut. I want to hear all the boring BS. You know what I mean? I want to hear the nonsense. I don't want to hear, now what percentage are vaccinated, Sean McDermott? I don't give a shit. You know, I want to hear about what percentage of receivers we're going to keep. Beep, 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 beep. Beep, 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 beep. Beep, 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 beep. Beep, 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 beep. Beep, 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 beep. Dee, 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 dee. And the other thing that always comes up every season when you deal with the pro football in America, folks, the NFL, the no fun league, as people like to call it, is new rules and things like that make things more boring. They love to make things more boring. They just love it. It's their favorite thing to do. They're like, this is too exciting. This sport is just, it's too popular. Too many people are watching it. Too many people are spending money. We need to do something to ruin it. And now I've gotten an email from L, actually in Australia. So commenting on American football, which is very interesting. He writes, "Hey, mate." That's something Australians say, eh? "Hey, mate. I'm a big fan of you and your show." I can't do an Australian. Can't do the accent. I was going to try. I can't. If it was Indian, I could do it. I could do a lot of the racist ones, but I can't, it's not racist to do an Australian accent, and I can't do it. Well, I can maybe do an English one a little bit. I could do a varying one. I could do like a rich English guy, and then I could do like the poor English person, the Cockney one. And I think the Cockney one seems like that one might be racist. So that's the one I'm better at. So I don't know, but I'm not going to be able to do the Australian one. I was curious to get your take on the taunting crackdown being implemented this season in the NFL, if possible. Much love from Brisbane, Australia. Hope to see you down here someday. Keep doing your thing. I did it anyway. When you say that was me hitting the phone. This just in. I suck at doing this. No, we're getting used to the phone. I like the phone, so I'm keeping it. We've got papers again, if you haven't noticed, by the way. And for those of you who think that's bad for the environment, you're wrong, according to one forestry man who emailed me saying, "Thank you for still using paper. We've gone so paperless that actually we have an abundance of dead wood, and we need people to start using some paper again." So I'm actually doing the environment a service. Those trees that die are for naught, so we can make new trees, you see. You're welcome, everyone out there. But I do not like the taunting penalty thing that's going on. And my take on it is they just want to make it boring. Basically, it's like they want to crack down on guys doing aggressive gestures after they, say you sack a quarterback. My favorite thing, if I were to be able to be a giant linebacker who could sack a quarterback, I would do wild shit after I sacked the quarterback. I'd be up in his face. I'd be like, "Yeah, you like that? You fucking..." I'd be doing the jerk off motion in his face and being like, "Splah, that's me coming on you, bitch." I'd be saying wild shit. Taunting, they would put me in for sexual harassment. That would be the penalty. I'd get 15 yards for accosting the quarterback, essentially. I would do wild shit. And essentially, that wasn't even an interesting text, by the way. That was an Uber Eats telling me that I have to tip a driver from yesterday. But nowadays, what people do, they do the flex over the guy. That's about as aggressive as it gets. And I think somebody did something where they did something aggressive. I don't even know what really spurred this whole motion to do this penalty. I have no idea what the actual penalty was, the specific example. I hope it was somebody doing the jerk off motion over, or just doing something wild. I would have gone up to him and I would have if the quarterback was on the ground, I would have rolled him over and been "I'm fucking your butt," right? Something like that. That's a taunting penalty. I get it. But now if they're just flexing over the guy and they're calling that as a flag, how annoying. You're not supposed to celebrate in any capacity after you do something like sack a quarterback or get a touchdown or something. They, doing a little bit of fuck you, yeah, that kind of shit is fun to me. I need more of that in my life. I like watching them yell at each other and things like that. So, I don't like it. To make the long story short, L, down in Australia, and I appreciate that you are getting up at 2 a.m. and paying attention to NFL football. That's pretty wild. I do it with soccer and some other things. I'm trying to get into more sports. As you know, I'm, of course, having my midlife crisis with baseball. And Friends, by the way. Friends is my other midlife crisis. I'm finding myself becoming more analytical, and I've decided I want out there because it was a bold take that I made last show where I brought up David Schwimmer being the best comedic actor of our generation. And I stand by it 100%. You can send your barbs. You can send your arrows. I'm going to get him on this show, and I'm going to tell it to him. John Ritter, they're doing it as we speak during this recording. Tonight they're doing a Remember John Ritter on 2020. And everyone's crying and remember what a great John Ritter was. John Ritter was a hack compared to David Schwimmer. I'm not trying to speak ill of John Ritter. It's not John Ritter's fault that he is he pales in comparison to Schwimmer, but I want you to give an episode from each season of Friends, a Ross-centric one. It takes a little digging, but it's up there for you. Take one Ross-centric episode from each season, give it a gander, and tell me there isn't range there, and that he isn't just a hoot. And I can't wait. Someday we're going to have him on this program. I'm going to make it happen. I'm manifesting it. Annie Letterman's teaching me how to manifest things, and that's the first thing that I'm going to manifest. David Schwimmer on this program. I'll do a quick Zoom with him just to tell him how great he is. And I think he's actually dating Aniston now, so he's probably become less accessible, just by proxy, just by dating her. He's like all of a sudden more difficult to get a hold of, but we'll find out. So do the Ross challenge out there and let me know. And maybe go into it with an open mind. I know a lot of people have converted to the fly because of me. Those people had an open mind and they've converted. A lot of people have told me that. Maybe I can convert some Ross haters out there. There are times you're supposed to hate Ross, by the way. You're supposed to. Keep that in mind as well. But back to other television that involves the NFL and it becoming super boring. Hard Knocks this season. Woof. And for those who don't know, Hard Knocks is an HBO show where it's like a documentary about training camp. And it's pretty amazing how quickly they produce these things because they happen week to week and they're following them as they go in training camp. And when you watch these, they're the cinematography is unbelievable. And they just did a drone shot, but it was almost like they were really jerking themselves off. I mean, the whole thing is so boring this season. It's with the Dallas Cowboys this year. And the Dallas Cowboys just couldn't have a team that I'm less interested in. It's just so boring. And they know it's boring because they have to fill time with nonsense like giant elaborate drone shots. There was like a 5-minute drone shot. Maybe you've seen it on the internet. It was all over Twitter. It was super viral. And it was a drone shot that started outside of their practice facility and went all the way in, went through the halls, went through like every interworking part. Very wild, very well done. Unbelievable, as a matter of fact. I mean, I was a little left wanting more. Usually when I see a drone operated that well, I expect a Yemeni wedding to get blown up at the end of it, but that's neither here nor there. It was very underwhelming at their conclusion, where it just stopped. And then they showed some bloopers, which were fun, the thing running into stuff. But it was just a time filler. It really was, because there's no substance to Hard Knocks this season. There's just nothing. Can we stop having... If Joe Philbin is on a team... No more Joe Philbin on Hard Knocks. He was there with the Dolphins, and that was a snooze fest other than Ocho Cinco. He's there now. I think he was there another time as a coordinator. Enough Joe fucking Philbin on Hard Knocks, okay? I'm so bored with it that I am manufacturing plot lines. I'm starting to, like, make up things. They showed Dak Prescott, who is the quarterback, and Ezekiel Elliott, who is the running back. They're apparently, like, best of friends. And I've started... just imagining and manufacturing in my head that they are a gay couple and that they are brave and they are the first gay couple in the NFL that is on the same team, the first gay teammates in the same locker room. How brave would that be? So I've started just like having this like will they, won't they moment of if they'll kiss or not. That's how I have to get through Hard Knocks and make it interesting in my brain, you see. I have to have this will they kiss, won't they kiss. It's very Ross and Rachel, bringing it back to that. So that's what I've had to do to get through Hard Knocks. And wouldn't that be lovely if they, in fact, were a gay couple, first gay couple teammates? That would be monumental. That would make for some wonderful Hard Knocks. I hit the news thing, but we're staying in sports, I'm afraid, because we have some legends to speak of. This is like Legends Day on the Josh Potter Show, you see. Magic Johnson, we all know him. We all love him. Some people know him as a basketball player, and some know him as the first man to not die of AIDS. He's like the first guy where we're like, does he have AIDS? You know what I mean? Like he's like living this crazy, like wonderful life. He owns the Dodgers. I mean, he was like working for the Lakers for so long. I mean, he is like living a vibrant life with AIDS. It's wild. And recently he did an interview where he kind of discusses, because everyone, I mean, I don't know if everyone was. Maybe it's just my morbid fascination. I, of course, very curious, how'd he get the AIDS? I assume sex, but, I want to know how. Which sex? Do you know what I'm saying? He dived into it just a little bit here, he says. His private life was never in the limelight until after his career. He did an interview post-retirement where he talked about a lot of subjects from his personal life. When the topic of his romantic life came up, Magic Johnson revealed that he once had sex with 6 women at one time. Now, these are the stories I want to hear. I don't want to hear about your great game at the Forum. I want to hear about the 6 women at one time. He also iterated that he wasn't glorifying his earlier lifestyle, but he wasn't hiding behind it either. He did enjoy it. Who wouldn't? I mean, to be like Jake the Snake Roberts. You ever see that documentary, Kirsten, of Jake the Snake?
I have not.
He has, there was multiple documentaries about Jake the Snake. There's the DDP one where he like comes back to life, and DDP like saves his life. And then there's another documentary called Beyond the Ring. And Jake the Snake Roberts is like tracked down in that, and he's so like, he's in the throes of just like alcoholism and addiction and his career's done. He's like doing bullshit fire halls where he's like just walking into the ring and people, then he just signs autograph, very much like the movie The Wrestler. And so he says at one time he's like talking about getting some road beef, and he talks about it in a way that is like, that makes you sad. You're like, no, man, come on, like look back and enjoy. He would go, what did he say? He said it goes, when you have sex with 5 women at one time, it makes it hard to go home and make love to your wife. And I'm like, well, yeah, I guess I would. But Jesus, Jake, cheering up, buddy. I mean, we had a good time, didn't we, back in the fucking 80s? But nevertheless, Magic Johnson doesn't hide the fact that he did, in fact, enjoy it. But he says he did enjoy it, but he also understood the cost of it later. Yeah, he got AIDS. I mean, that was his cost of it. Holy hell. He spoke candidly about his experiences as a young superstar in the NBA. He was very responsible and honest in talking about his situation. One thing for sure, Magic Johnson will always be remembered as one of the all-time greats. Yeah. But also, says Magic, like I said, women have different fantasies. Some want to be with 2 or 3 at a time. One time I had 6 at a time. This was the quote from the interview. The interviewer says, was that their fantasy or yours? And he goes, both. Probably more so theirs than mine. Yeah, okay. Uh-huh. That's the alpha brain of an athlete, though. He's like, their fantasy was to be with me. They didn't care how many other chicks were in the bed. It was all about being with this Magic, baby. So then he says, I'm not sending any mixed messages. That was my life. If you ask me if I had fun, I had fun. Did you enjoy your fantasies? Yes, I did. But you pay for it. Well, I mean, it is a cautionary tale. If you live on a certain edge, you're going to have some consequences. His happened to be the AIDS. So Eric, our Roach reporter who sent this in, he asks a question. Would you get AIDS for your sexual fantasy? And I wish I had anyone to bounce it off of aside from the two of us, Kirsten. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I am bouncing it off to the collective unwashed out there. I'm trying to think. I don't have what I would consider delusional fantasies, like ones that I don't think that I could accomplish. Maybe that is just a delusional mindset. But I think my fantasies are simple enough where I can manifest them happening. I can make them happen at some point in my life. My sexual career is not over. I can make my fantasies happen. So therefore, I wouldn't, if you presented it to me like, hey, Josh, because basically my fantasy is just multiple women. That's it. But that's a tough thing to coordinate. Now, some people out there are like, no, it's not. It's been tough for me. And that, I mean, it's literally been sometimes where it's like scheduling. It's like just unavailability, different people being different. And that's been frustrating, but it's like any other sort of thing you're trying to put together. And it's always like a shooting star that I can't seem to grasp, even though I reach for the skies every time. And if you presented it to me, though, would you say to me, Josh, you can have that, but you get AIDS? I would probably say no. And that is because I feel like I can still achieve it. I would be like, well, I don't have to go through the AIDS part. I can just make this happen, I hope. I'm going to have faith in myself and believe in myself and just keep my fingers crossed that it could occur at some point. And so I would pass on the AIDS. Now, if your fantasy was something wild, like I want to have sex in a fighter jet or something wild like that, like if it was something that was borderline fantastical to the point of alternate reality, I mean, not even really something achievable, then I would take the AIDS. You know what I mean? Like, that's when you give me the AIDS. If it was something like, I want to have sex in front of the Lord or something crazy, I don't know what it could be. Or like maybe your fantasy is a certain celebrity or a famous person. That could be worth getting the AIDS. Like, is there a person, Kirsten? Is there like a dude out there who you'd be like, I'll take it. I'll take the AIDS.
Man, like there's nothing that comes off the top of my head. And I'm also thinking that if you're risking that, it's got to be like a late in life type of like adventure.
Oh, sure.
You know, I can't be in my 20s risking the AIDS fantasy. But
no, that's true too. And then it also in your 20s, you feel like you can achieve all the fantasies. But I meant like, is there a person? Because I could think of a couple of people that maybe I would go like, I'll try. Thinking of Magic Johnson, he is like, he's living a pretty good life with AIDS. It seems like it's not a death sentence any longer. So
I do have one. Did you ever watch Smallville back in the day?
I have seen it.
So Tom Welling plays Clark Kent, and I mean, from my childhood to now, if I really had to risk it,
yes,
he'd be the one.
Interesting. Now there are so many iterations of Clark Kent, and they all kind of, I can just picture him based off of the fact that he played Clark Kent. You know, it's the same. There's no like, it's not like Batman where it's like Michael Keaton to Val Kilmer to Clooney to Ben Affleck. Like everyone who played Superman kind of has the same thing going on, right? Chiseled jaw, you know, stark black hair, dark eyes, same kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. So I can kind of picture Tom Wellington. So I mean, and none of the other Supermans, you're not going to settle for any of the other Supermans though, knowing that part of it?
I mean, that's the only one I really watched.
Not even Caviezel or whatever.
Not even familiar with him. I watched that one with my dad.
He played our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ in The Passion of the Christ as well. The Caviezel guy, Henry.
Nope. But I will tell you that Tom Wellings from Smallville, like as a kid at 6-7 years old, I would hang myself off like the banister to our basement, hoping Superman would like just come save me.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. I'm trying, because there's like I'm trying to think of like specifics. There's too many that I would get AIDS for, I think. The list is too long. Like that's kind of just scaring me now, because a moment ago I was like, no fantasy would make me want to get AIDS. But now that I've made the fantasy a person, I could give you a laundry list, I think.
Do you have like a top 3?
Probably porn stars, to be honest, but I don't even know. Because now my mind is expanding to women like that are just. I can definitely say one, Sarah Michelle Gellar, number one, and it could be like right now, Sarah Michelle Gellar, like she is still a dime, like she has not aged. She looks fantastic. She's like turned milfy. I mean, she is like supreme. She is the top, and she is the subject of many childhood fantasy, as you mentioned. So she would be number one for sure. And then it would just get gray. I mean, it would just be like I could go down the porn star route, and there's like 3 or 4 that I could rattle off, and then I could go down the actress route, but it's less the actresses and more just like, I don't know. It's just too many. There, like you could. It's almost, now that I'm thinking about it, there's probably more famous women that I would just get AIDS for than there aren't. Like I should make a list of ones that I wouldn't get it for at this point. I'm starting to think, you know, so I do have to suss it out in my brain. Maybe I will come up with a list. I'll go over it diligently and I will unpack it all in my brain and try and figure it out. But if you have yours out there, let us know. And if it's a scenario, let us know as well. joshpottershow@gmail.com. But let us get to an ad real quick. This show today, The Josh Potter Show, is brought to us by the fine folks at DoorDash. And let me grab the proper script for it. DoorDash, you see, has been so crucial for my existence in these past couple of months. You see, I don't drive in Los Angeles. And everyone, when I moved here, they were like, you have to have a car in Los Angeles, blah, blah, blah. Guess what? I don't. And DoorDash has made it even easier to not have a car in Los Angeles. Not only is DoorDash scooping up stuff from my favorite restaurants for me and bringing them to my home, but they can also pick up groceries, essentials from the convenience store, like you need razors or something like that. I just went to Rite Aid to get razors. It is easier to negotiate peace between the Middle East than it is to get razors from my Rite Aid. So DoorDash takes that out of the whole equation as well. And you don't have to worry about doing that. They just show up to your door. And again, still doing the whole restaurant thing. What do you want to eat tonight? Boom, DoorDash has it for you. I'm just, you can get anything you want to eat right now with DoorDash, along with all those other things I mentioned. You can also get drinks. You need some beer or something. DoorDash scoops those things up as well. So go to DoorDash right now. Get everything all in the app. And for a limited time, the listeners of this show can get 25% off and 0 delivery fees on their first order of $15 or more when you download the DoorDash app. So you enter code JOSH when you download it. That's 25% off up to $10 value and 0 delivery fees on your first order when you download the DoorDash app in the App Store. Enter the code JOSH. Don't forget, that's code JOSH for 25% off your first order with DoorDash. Subject to change. Terms apply. So keep that in mind. Now we have to talk about another legend, and this legend was brought to my attention by Rick Ingram. Hilarious comic. He works out of the Comedy Store. Super funny. If you haven't checked him out, please go check out Rick Ingram. One of my favorite dudes. I don't know if I'm ruining his brand by saying this, but like one of the nicest guys I've ever come across. And I love talking baseball with him because we were in a fantasy baseball league together. The first year I ever played, as a matter of fact. And he brought up a story that he came across, and I did see it floating around. It is the legend that is Ray Caldwell. Now, I saw this story, and Rick brought up this story, but he also highlighted it with some other things that he did some big digging on. I said digger for the record. Okay, don't try and clip that out and think that I said digger instead of digging, and digger is a word. So let's relax out there, all right? Okay. Was not anything to do with the
inner city blacks.
So, anywho, Roy Caldwell, Rick Ingram was telling me this story about him, and he gets into these other details that made this guy a hero of mine. You know, you walk through the Hall of Fame, you see all the stats, you see the great players. This is a great player, in my opinion. And I'll tell you why he is getting a bunch of press, because back in, 1919, this occurred, before drinking problems moved him to the outskirts of baseball. This gentleman, Ray Caldwell, got another chance with the Cleveland Indians. So he gets an opportunity to play for the Cleveland Indians. A guy kicks the tires on him. After he kind of bounces around a little bit, the man loves to drink, to the point where the Indians gave him a contract that said he had to get drunk to play baseball. Baller. I mean, holy hell. I'm sure that I wish I could see the contract. They could provide provisions, X amount of booze, etc. He had to drink a certain amount before he played. That was in his fucking contract. So they kicked the tires on him in his first game as a Cleveland Indian. This is why he was so prolific and so getting to do whatever he wants, you see. So it's his first game. It's a clear day, right? And if you know Cleveland, you know it's on the lake. And you get that lake effect action, whether it be snowstorms or otherwise. This case, obviously, it was in the summertime. So some clouds roll in fast off Lake Erie. Cleveland's players, who have grown accustomed to the lake effect weather mood swings, take the positions and hope to grind out 3 more outs before the skies really open up. So our boy Ray Caldwell, he hurriedly toes the rubber as the rain picks up. He gets 2 easy infield pop-outs in the opening inning, and then he's got 1 more to go. The wind is howling. The storm is now fully upon the field. And just as he gets set, a flash from the sky explodes down in the middle of the field. Shortstop Ray Chapman feels a surge of electricity go down his leg, and the violence of the lightning strike causes the players to dive to the ground. I took off my mask and threw it as far as I could, Cleveland catcher Steve O'Neill says later of his metal mask. I didn't want to attract any bolts toward me. 5 seconds after the bolt hit the ground, everybody looks around. The 8 Indians players, all the position players, they're okay. But their newest teammate, he's not okay. Ray Caldwell is on his back, arms spread wide, out cold on the mound. The lightning strike had hit him directly. What? Got fucking struck by lightning. Everybody rushes out to Caldwell, but the first man who touches him leaps in the air, saying he'd been zapped by Caldwell's prone body. So everybody steps back and just stares. Caldwell's chest is smoldering from where the bolt burnt it. They're terrified to touch him. Nobody does. All of them wonder, is he dead? Right around the time everybody on the field is ready to pronounce Caldwell dead, the 31-year-old pitcher starts groaning and crawls back to his knees, then to his feet. Teammates rejoice, but still everybody keeps their distance from the guy whose chest was just on fire. They offer to walk him off the field as he heads to the hospital, but Caldwell is incredulous. I have one more out to go. The guy wanted to play to get the last out. And it's 1919. So they let him. They were like, all right. Shit, they probably all thought that he was a witch. I mean, this is so long ago that I'm surprised they didn't, burn him at the stake after because they thought he was a witch or something wild like that. They were like, he's the devil. He got struck by he's immortal. You know what I mean? Like they're all into their fucking witchcraft and voodoo and all that crap. Fans had scattered in the pandemonium of the lightning strike. It's believed to have splintered, hit Caldwell and connected with the press box too, sending people running everywhere. Many leave the game immediately, but for the brave ones who stick around, they settle into their seats again, and Caldwell grooves his first pitch, and Dugan takes a big cut, connecting on a hard grounder to the third baseman, Willie Gardner, who can't handle it cleanly. He knocks it to the ground in front of him, snags it, and rushes a throw to first just in time. Dugan is out, and the Cleveland fans still in attendance are as shocked as the players on the field. Ray Caldwell survived a lightning strike and then finished a complete game win in the most important game of his life. We could all feel the tingle of the electric shock running through our systems, particularly in our legs, says Evans, who is a player from the Indians. It felt like somebody came up with a board and hit me on top of the head and knocked me down. That's what Caldwell tells the Cleveland Plain Dealer after the game. They made him do the press conference. Nowadays, they would say something like Cam Newton just got struck by lightning, and then he would just kind of give a short answer and walk off, and they'd be like, terrible attitude. Terrible attitude. God. Not a good sportsman. But Caldwell did do some post-game press with the Cleveland Plain Dealer. It's hard to know whether Caldwell was hustling to get to the bar after that one, the most incredible pitching performances the game has seen. But by all accounts, he perfectly fulfilled his contract obligations in 1919. Golly. So not only did he get struck by lightning, he got one more out, which is unbelievable. The following year, though, and this is where I think it gets interesting, Caldwell starts to slide. The man who brought him onto the team, the coach, the manager, speaker, he tries him in the bullpen, but the manager later ends up suspending Caldwell for what local media call alcohol issues. The team let him go later that year, whether it became a maturity or alcohol or whatever. He couldn't quite string it together. So he had a fantastic last go in Cleveland, but then it was all done. He bounced around the league in the minors for 12 more years, winning 140 games, making a nice living on the fringes of pro baseball. But yes, in his contract, and so, these are all things that I was told about in lieu of this. In his contract, it said he could drink at one point because he was that good. That, my friends, should inspire all of us. Not the lightning strike aspect. Yes, incredible, godlike. Getting hit by lightning and then finishing the game, inspirational. But you know what I find inspiring? Being such a good drinker that it is in your contract that you better do it before you perform. God bless him. It's like him and Ron White. That is the legend of Ray Caldwell. He did have a contract with the Yankees that said, you can't drink. And I think he just stopped going. It's like he just stopped showing up. People say that in comedy all the time. They're like, man, isn't this nuts? Like, what other job can you have a beer before you work? And I was like, well, really all of them, if you really try hard enough. You know? You can have a beer before you operate a forklift. I mean, should you? Probably not. But you could. Where there's a will, there's a way, you know? I thought this was funny. The WNBA champions met with Joe Biden this past week, becoming the first professional basketball team since 2016 to visit the White House of any gender for that matter. But what's wild is with the NBA side of things, of course, they declined the invite. Trump didn't even, turns out, invite the WNBA. They were probably like, Mr. Trump, would you like to have the WNBA? He's like, the what? The who? I'm not having any of that. No, I'm not wasting my time. He hates the NBA. Imagine how much he hates the WNBA. This is the WNBA. Are you serious? Look at these women. Should call this one the NBA. God. Fucking disgusting. I don't know. So like they showed up. Now they're there with Biden. So hey, they got to go back. Meanwhile, he's having his own to-dos. What with all the things in the Middle East and whatnot, I'm sure he was happy to take some time and meet with the WNBA. You think he thought it was the NBA, though, too? Just because he's confused, he's like, are these the Phoenix Suns? The Milwaukee Bucks? No, Joe, the Milwaukee Bucks won it, and it's not them. This is the WNBA. But let's get into the news, shall we? And might I say, Roach reporters galore out there, but there is one who stands out today. Jefferson Nally sent in many things to joshpottershow@gmail.com. That's where you can send in all your Roach report. I mean, Jefferson Nally going for an Emmy at this point. I mean, it is good. Kudos out there, my friend. That's what local people get, right? An Emmy. I remember there was, because I dated a local news lady at one point. I was in the world a little bit, had a lot of friends who did that gig. And I know a couple who did win Emmys, as a matter of fact. And it was always so empty. I felt always so terrible for them. Some of them, they were very honored and loved it. But the one woman that I was closest with, she won one. And I was like, aren't you happy? This is a freaking Emmy. It's pretty cool. You have an Emmy with your name on it. And she was like, yeah, I still make $25,000 a year. So who gives a shit? I was like, you're right. I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, I just saw an article about local news and how absolutely just mind-numbingly poor it treats its employees. I was like, try local radio. I mean, all these things, they used to have flourishing futures in them, and now they don't any longer. And I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to happen to podcasting, too. We're on the other side of it, where it's like things are flourishing and kind of being cottage industry, but soon enough corporations are going to get involved, and it's going to make the waters very murky, and everything will get bloated and oversaturated, and it'll die the same way. It's the circle of life, baby. But Jefferson Nally, you, my friend, should get an Emmy, sending many a story in. I'm going to skip this one for a moment because it wasn't my favorite, but this one here, at the end, yes, there it is. Lots of sex stuff, and this one, we talked about the dangers of perhaps living out a fantasy and perhaps suffering the consequences of such a thing with Magic Johnson getting the AIDS, you say? Well, here's another sex cautionary tale. This from Jefferson Nally. The headline reads, "Sex leads to paralysis. Not where you want it to go." That's probably the last place I could deal with not coming. I could deal with her not coming. I don't want it to end in paralysis, though. There are some ladies out there, though, that I wonder, And no, this is not about Trevor Bauer. Woman paralyzed after being catapulted from bed during sex sues the law firm. That's what they're now. So there's a firm suing this bed company. A woman left paralyzed after being catapulted from her new bed during a sex session is suing the bed suppliers at the High Court for 7 figures damage. Now, I don't remember. Maybe you remember, Kirsten. What part of the world was this? England or Australia?
I don't remember, but I can find it real quick, actually.
I mean, if you can, let me know. But it is not America, so there's some things in here like the High Court. Like, what the fuck is that? I had no idea what that was like. The High Court, what are we in, Harry Potter? But it is, here we are. Claire Busby of Maidenhead, Berkshire. I do believe this is Australia, though, I'm going to say. But we'll find out. Australia or England, a new game here on the Josh Potter Show. So we'll find out as Kirsten takes a look. I think even just by looking in the publication. The 46-year-old woman claims the bed was in a defective state at the time of her accident and is taking legal action against a Berkshire Bed Company, trading as beds are Ooze, which supplied it. Okay, so there's a Beds Are Us. I read that so wrong. It's Beds Are U-Z-Z-Z-Z. Get it? Winky face. I just saw what they did there, you see? So I'm sitting here reading it going, trading as Beds Are Ooze. Why would they call it that? Oh, it's Beds Are Us with all the Z's for sleepiness. Z's, get it? I bet they have a cute logo and everything. Well, now they're getting sued because they supplied this shoddy bed, which led to the paralysis during sex. What were they doing? Just get to it already. Judge Barry Cotter was told the central issue in the case is whether there were defects with the bed and whether Miss Busby's tragic injuries were caused or contributed to them by the bed. So the court heard the bed was one of 5 delivered to the Busby's home. So what were they just testing out these beds and all right, we fucked on this one. Now let's go to this one and give that one a spin. It's like they were test driving beds. Unbelievable. She told the court she was kneeling in the middle of the bed performing a sex act. Now, what could that be? So it doesn't say where the guy is, but she's on her knees in the middle. I don't imagine he's standing on the bed and she's like this. I'd imagine she's like kneeling and I'm going to take a guess that she is doing your standard cowgirl, riding the man on her knees, bouncing up and down on his penis. Okay, so that's what I'm going to go with. So then she tells the court she decided to move positions, and she swung her legs from underneath her before laying back on the bed. So that makes me think she was doing the whole lean back on the dick thing and getting her legs out to the front. And she tried to lean back so that the guy could then get on top of her and fuck her. And she flew off the back of the bed. That's what I'm going with. And I would have a chart and I would say, "In Your Honor," and then she flew off this way if I was the defense attorney, because this is a dangerous move. You have to know where you are on the bed to pull something like this acrobatic. At that point, she claims the bed gave way and she toppled off the end, landing on her head. So it's as if she says the 2 feet at the end of the bed came off. They became loose. The bed went down, and that's what caused her to tumble off. I spun around, I put my hand down, and then it felt like I was catapulted off the back of the bed. My head hit the floor, I fell to the side, and then I heard like a spring in my body snap, it felt like. Yikes. Her sister told the court that when she went to the property after the accident, she noticed there were 2 feet missing from the bed. Aha! The 2 feet missing. So that's where they say it's faulty. Now, this is what I'm wondering. A company who supplies a bed, do they then, it doesn't say here if they assembled it. Who assembled the bed? Because now you buy a furniture, and then they expect you to be a fucking engineer and put it together. I've put together a couple of things, and I'll tell you, I'm pretty shitty at it. If I was tasked with putting this bed together, I think the blame would fall on me for not fastening the feet properly or something like that, not the manufacturer of the bed, unless, of course, it was found that I followed the instructions to a T, or I was some master handyman and I was like, there's no fucking way. It's their shitty parts. You know, I would have no idea. I would be caught if this was a Lifetime movie that I was the star in or the main character of. I would probably go to jail for this woman becoming paralyzed because I put my bed together poorly and she tried to do some wild sex shit and fell off. That would be what happened to me, you know? Kirsten, I would get one of those ladies. Let's say Sarah Michelle Gellar. I'd be having sex with Sarah Michelle Gellar. I'd get the AIDS, obviously. That's part of the bargain. And then, in my sex with Sarah Michelle Gellar, she would fall off the fucking bed and get paralyzed because I put the bed together wrong. That's what's going to happen. That would be my luck. But as we move on here, it looks as though lawyers for the bed company agree it was properly assembled at the time of the delivery, and that even if the 2 gliders were missing by the time of the incident, that would not have caused the bed to lose balance in a way that's suggested by the plaintiff. It's overwhelmingly likely that whatever her actions were, they were too close to the edge of the bed, and she simply lost her balance and toppled backwards. Well, I'm glad that the defense firm is out there doing what I just said and bringing the fact that she doesn't have spatial awareness to the table. That is a great defense, and I think the bed company is going to win that case. And with that, let me tell you, speaking of sex, if you're going to have it, you do not want to have all your nuts and bolts mangled up inside of, you don't want it all mangled in hair and everything like that. I'm a very hairy guy. I got to keep that shit trimmed, my friend. It's like the rainforest, and I got to mow it down so that I can get more paper, so we can have papers. I got to mow that bad boy all the time. And thanks to Manscaped in their new 4.0 guy, holy hell, it's the lawnmower 4.0. They keep pumping these bad boys out, and they keep somehow making them better and better. And right now they've got their Performance Package 4.0 that's just taken off not only in the United States, but Canada, the UK, across Europe, Australia, South Africa, and Singapore. Hell, you got to live in one of those places. Scoop it up. This package, you'll find the Lawnmower 4.0, as I mentioned, which is unbelievable how they keep making this thing better. It's got the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, the Crop Preserver ball deodorant. The ball deodorant smells so good that I'm not going to lie to you. There are days when I'm just running mindless errands. I put the ball deodorant on as regular deodorant too. Hell, if my balls are going to smell good, might as well make my pits smell good too. I throw it on. That's just me though. That's not in the copy. I also love that they have the Crop Reviver toner and also their Performance Boxer Briefs and a travel bag to hold your whole thing, your whole solar system of Manscaped products. I've actually used this thing on the road now. It's become my toiletry bag. It's such a wonderful bag. So go scoop up all of this, my friend. You can get 20% off right now, plus free shipping with the code Potter at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code Potter at manscaped.com. Your dick and your balls, they need some help. And for a clean trinity and beyond, your space balls will thank you. Ooh. So yes, that is Manscaped. Thank you to them for keeping my balls intact and clean and everything else. Jefferson Nally, like I said, killing it. He had another story here that I wanted to get to that involves sex. And this is about a sex crime that has just been invented in South Korea. And I'm wondering, will it come here to America? Will it be stateside soon? South Korean politicians want semen terrorism labeled as a sex crime. That is a wild sentence. Semen terrorism. I'm on board, frankly. It sounds a lot more fun than the terrorism that we know. I know ISIS-K is a new thing out there. Maybe we have some ISIS-J for jizz. We can get some semen terrorists. Let's see what semen terrorism is. South Korean politicians are considering making amendments to existing laws to make semen terrorism a punishable sex crime. The push follows a series of court verdicts punishing men who have secretly ejaculated onto women's belongings for property damage, rather than a sex crime, according to a report from The Guardian. So right now, apparently guys are jizzing onto a woman's purse or something, and they're getting property damage charges, and they want to adjust it to be a sex crime. I have so many questions, how is this occurring so often in South Korea? I've never had a woman charge me for mutual agreement of where the semen goes. I've never been a semen terrorist. It's more like I don't know, they're on board, so what would you call that? I guess that would just be a regular old sanctioned bombing. I don't know. What would you call it? A demolition? I don't understand. I don't know how to relate it to terrorism, but I've definitely, let's say, dropped a few bombs, and it's landed, on things that could be considered valuable: clothing, lingerie. Sometimes even if it gets in their hair, that could be something that they have to deal with and contend with. That's financial right there. That could be property damage, and I'm thankful that I haven't gotten cited on any of that. Didn't have any idea that it was such a problem out there for women. Is it something you've noticed, Kirsten? Are you going, for a walk, and then all of a sudden it's a car accident? You have to get their insurance information so you can get your dress cleaned or something?
No, I've never run into this problem, thankfully, but it is making me wonder, are these semen terrorists just jizzing through the fly to get it out?
That's one way that they could do it. I would imagine that's what it doesn't explain. Is this happening in a relationship? If we go out on a date or something, or if I go out on a date with a woman, and then all of a sudden we have some intercourse in a car, say, And I do have it out through the fly, and it gets a little everywhere. It gets on them. It's on their blouse, whatever. And then I get like a Venmo, like, hey, that blouse was $180. You know, I haven't had that happen. They could take me to small claims court for that blouse, apparently, in South Korea. Or is it the fact that, like, I rode the subway today and a homeless man jerked off on me and jizzed on me, and now I'm suing him for property damage? It just seems like such a fringe crime. But let's read into it, the article a little more. Maybe it'll explain. The lenient punishment in these cases, as well as the societal attitudes towards sex and women's rights in South Korea, have come under increased scrutiny in light of the Me Too movement. Look at that. The Me Too movement is affecting Korea. Semen terrorism, the act of secretly delivering or smearing semen onto a person without them knowing. So that's the difference. Secretly doing it. So they have people in South Korea. I mean, I want to know what they should. I mean, I wonder if they have like a group, you know, like the Taliban or like ISIS or what have you. I want to know what's the top semen terrorist organization out there that's going around just putting their jizz on things secretly or putting it in it. We'll have to do some research further. I want to know if there's any splinter cells out there in South Korea. I've never heard of this type of terrorism. Not sure if I get the angle of what the advantage. You know, a lot of terrorists, they cite, trying to topple some sort of this or that. I don't know what the goal of the semen terrorist is quite yet. A graduate student who also was jailed for 3 years in 2019 on the charge of attempted injury for spiking a woman's coffee 54 times with a mix of semen, laxatives, phlegm. Well, that is just poisoning this woman. That's different, obviously. But man, oh man, I can't believe this has been such an issue that they need to try and bring it up and make it they should make it a sex crime, obviously, but it's just wild that it's happening so often. Is it a thing that's happening in America? If you've been a victim of semen terrorism, do let us know. joshpottershow@gmail.com, please, to be letting me know. Sex crimes need to be interpreted from the victim's point of view. We agree with that, of course, here at the Josh Potter Show, and it should definitely be a sex crime, but it's just something that I can't believe. Every sex crime is a crime. Yeah, I know. I'm trying to get into more incidents involving the semen terrorism. According to Insider, Korea is also facing an epidemic of men concealing small cameras in women's bathrooms, subways, and hotel rooms in an effort to film molka. That must be a Korean word for hidden camera porn. Oh, so that's very interesting. Wild shit happening in South Korea. Interesting indeed. And finally, speaking of Korea, they make wonderful films these days. I mean, Parasite, what a film, huh? Did you see it, Kirsten?
Yes, I did see that movie, actually, in the last month.
Fantastic movie. If you haven't seen it, I'm going to spoil it. Basically, as we all know, now that all the people who haven't seen it left, because I am going to spoil it right now. There's a family who's poor, who ends up inhabiting a lifestyle where they are working for this rich family. One day the rich family goes out of town. The poor family is like living in their house, essentially. Then they discover that one of the employees that they got rid of to usurp them, to take over basically, lives in the home. Always. Like in the basement, in this tunnel, in this bunker. And then they come up at night when the family's like sleeping and get food from the fridge, everything like that. So that's the plot of Parasite. Now imagine, if you will, having that occur to you, only your wife is fucking the person. That's what happens here. A man was shot by a wife's boyfriend who was secretly living in their home, deputies say. On August 15th, around 9 p.m., Mobile County Sheriff's Department responded to a shooting that occurred at a home in Skidmore Road in Creola, I believe is the way you pronounce it, I hope. 2 men had been shot, and both were being transported to a local hospital to treat their injuries. The victim and homeowner, Frank Reeves, was shot in the chest by Michael Amaker, according to MCSO. That is the sheriff's office, of course, of Mobile County. MCSO states that Reeves and then shot Amaker multiple times, striking him in the lower leg and elbow. During the investigation, detectives discovered that the homeowner's wife, Tracy Reeves, alerted her husband that an intruder was inside their home. It was later discovered that Tracy knew the intruder and had been fucking him for over a year. She was also allowing the man to live inside the home, providing him food and more. Well, we know what the more was. Pussy. I mean, she was providing him a lot more. Frank had no knowledge of this man staying inside of his home, according to the sheriff's department. Currently, the charges for Amaker are attempted murder, possession of controlled substance, possession of a firearm with an altered serial number, and he is already a convicted felon, and ICE charges are forthcoming. Ooh. Tough. So, I guess, I mean, man, oh man, how come he's got attempted murder charges when he's the one who got shot? I see. Okay, no, he shot him first. I was having trouble following that. So you see, the man who was the fuck toy living in the home, getting fed, getting pussy, while the other guy had no fucking idea, he was shot second. So there you go. Man, what a thankless piece of shit. I mean, how do you shoot? Why are you shooting the guy? Maybe just to get rid of him once and for all. I want to live upstairs. I want to come out of the basement. I'm going to shoot this guy. So, can't do that when you're a felon, though. You gotta be thankful that you're hiding in the basement, especially with the ICE stuff. You don't want them coming lurking around. Hide in the basement, sir. So, there we are, friends. Another episode of the Josh Potter Show in the books. Thank you to Kirsten for being here for the first one of her tenure. And I appreciate you very much for jumping into the helm. First time behind the wheel. So thank you very much for doing that. Welcome and all of that kind of thing. I'm going to mention where I'm going to be one more time. I'm going to be Milwaukee, September 5th, Milwaukee Improv. It's coming up very soon. Get your tickets, please. 10 days after that, September 15th, I will be at Zany's in Nashville. A couple of days after that, September 30th, Washington, D.C., going to be at the D.C. Improv. So please to be buying tickets to all of those shows if they are in your area. You can go to my Twitter at @J_Potter. The link is in the bio. It gets you to all the shows, as well as my Instagram, which is at @Josh_Potter. You can get all the info in those bios. Pleased to be doing so. And also make sure you go to my Twitch, twitch.tv/Josh_Potter. Keep things coming to the email. Thank you again to Jefferson Nally. That last story about the parasite-like couple there, that was Don Thompson who sent that one in. And thank you once again for this music bed from Griffin Parker. And you can send in your music. You can send in your Roach articles, your Roach Reporter work, your remixes, whatever you want to send in, folks. JoshPotterShow@gmail.com. Thank you for subscribing. Hit the bell if you haven't. And if you're listening on iTunes or any of those types of things, please continue to rate, review, and subscribe. Even if you've already done it, unsubscribe, resubscribe. I mean, it goes a long way. Keeps us up in those charts. Thank you again for joining us. We'll be back next week. And I think I'll have a guest next to me. A very exciting one as we get ready for football season to begin. So keep that in mind. If not, I'll be here by myself once again. And I want to thank you for sticking with me through all the changes that have happened all summer long. And like I said, if you've made it through this summer with me, we are only going up from here, my friends. We are only going to spread our wings and fly from under the fridge. So thank you once again for sticking it out with me. And we will be back again next Tuesday. I will see you next Tuesday on The Josh Potter Show.